Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Day Football Show. I'm your host, as always, Jackson Kellogg. And this week, we're at week 14, and we're doing game picks. So, getting right into the action. Last week's results, I went 9-6. So, I forgot to throw Eagles Packers in last week. I guess I just forgot about them. But I threw in a comment on one of the other videos. I forget which one that I picked the Packers. So that put me at 9-6. So total season record 120 correct picks, 71 wrong picks, and then the Eagles Bengals tie. So upset win of the week goes to Washington for taking out the former final undefeated team, the Steelers, who are now at 11-1 on the year. They are now gone. So Washington was able to take them out. Alex Smith drove them to the win along with a dominant defensive performance and a case of the dropsies by the Steelers receivers. Not surprised goes to the Ravens for their dominant win against the Cowboys on Tuesday Night Football. They had a ton of time to prepare. It wasn't very surprising. The Ravens have gotten a lot of end-of-the-week games due to their COVID mishaps, so it was a little bit of a benefit for them. So because it is week 14, there are no more teams on bye. 4 more weeks left to go. So let's get right into the picks. So Thursday Night Football was Patriots-Rams. The reason this is coming out afterward, I just threw my pick for this game in with Boston Tea Party Podcast. You should go check that out if you haven't already. But I had picked the Patriots to win because I thought the defense would be able to shut out Jared Goff. But I did say this game was going to rely on which Jared Goff showed up, and the consistent, better decision-making Goff showed up. The Rams had no issues offensively. Cam Akers just rushed all over the Patriots' defense for 174 yards. It was a brutal performance by the defense, and then Cam Newton and the offense, they just looked abysmal. They couldn't get anything going. The play calling was terrible, and even when it wasn't, Cam Newton and the O-line just couldn't get into a rhythm. Cam got sacked over and over. Cam looked skittish in the pocket. And when Cam could get the ball off it, just nosedived into the ground. So, not a good look for the Patriots here. Rams got a nice, easy win, and it looks like the Patriots will miss the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Getting into the Sunday matchups, Kansas City Chiefs against the Miami Dolphins. Chiefs riding one of the biggest hot streaks in the league right now. They only have their one loss to the Raiders earlier in the year. The Dolphins have been a little inconsistent as of late. I do give this to the Chiefs for the reason that the Dolphins, they've won a lot of games recently, but they haven't necessarily done it well. They've gotten a lot of lucky situations. They should have destroyed the Bengals, and they didn't. It wasn't the greatest offensive performance for them, but the defense showed out. I think this Dolphins defense is going to have a hard time containing the weapons of the Chiefs offense, and it might get ugly pretty quickly. Titans, Jaguars, still a one-win team, have the second longest losing streak of any team in the league right now. And the Tennessee Titans, they're coming off of a rough blowout against the Browns. I do give this to the Titans. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be able to stop Derrick Henry. And that's the key to beating the Titans. If you can't stop Derrick Henry, then you're most likely going to lose. So I think Derrick Henry is just going to run all over. As long as the Titans make very few mistakes, this could be a blowout game. I don't expect it to be very close. Texans, Bears. The Bears' offensive woes continue, and the Texans have just been inconsistent this whole year. The game was on the line, and they just fumbled it away, literally. The Texans lost to the Colts 26-20. Bears couldn't beat the Matthew Stafford-led Lions. I do give this win to the Texans. I think the Texans are the better team. I think as long as Deshaun Watson, if he can put the team on his back, both the Bears' offense and the Texans' defenses are both very not good. They're some of the lowest ranked in all their categories. So on that side of the ball, as long as Deshaun Watson can carry the offense, this game should be a fairly easy win for the Texans. It's just going to be a matter of is the Texans defense going to be able to hold off the inconsistent Bears offense, which it should, because the Bears offense, I'd say, is a bottom 3 in the league. If I were to rank the 3 worst offenses, I think I'd go Jets, Bears, Jaguars. So, yeah. Bengals, Cowboys. Cowboys coming off of a loss on Tuesday Night Football to the Ravens. Bengals, like I said earlier, lost to the Dolphins. The Joe Burrow-less Bengals don't play very well. It just shows how talented Joe Burrow is and why he is going to be a great future quarterback for this franchise. But the issue with the Bengals is their offensive line and protecting Joe Burrow. And I think this might be a tough game here where the Cowboys, who have had a ton of defensive issues, this is a good game for them to figure out any defensive issues they're going to need for a late division push going towards the rest of the year. So we'll see how that goes for them. I do give the Cowboys the win. I think Andy Dalton is going to do very well against his former team's defense. Bengals defense isn't very good, and they don't have to do a whole lot to get past it. Expect this game to be close, but I do think the Cowboys will be the more dominant team. So we'll see if Andy Dalton can keep the game at a distance, or if it's going to come down to a final drive. Broncos versus Panthers rematch of Super Bowl 50, except 2 different starting quarterbacks instead of Manning versus Newton. We now have Locke versus Bridgewater. Drew Lock has been inconsistent in the times where he played, but he's also been injury prone this season. And Teddy Bridgewater, coming off of a brutal injury that he had earlier in the year, his knees just keep getting damaged like nothing. You hate to see it. I do give the Panthers the win. I think this young defense is going to give Drew Lock a hard time. I'm starting to be a bit skeptical on if Drew Lock is the future quarterback for the Broncos. If I were to predict it right now, I don't think he would be. Granted, he still does have 2 more years left on his contract, but John Elway is usually pretty quick to deciding when to move on from his quarterbacks. Moved on from Paxton Lynch before his contract was up. Moved on from Osweiler pretty quickly. Didn't want to keep Simeon around. So I don't think that Drew Lock will be the answer, and I think after this year, it might be the end of John Elway's job as general manager. Vikings, Buccaneers. Buccaneers coming off of a bye that they desperately needed, as they have been inconsistent the last few weeks. And the Vikings are riding a hot streak. They keep consistently getting wins. They have been very close and against not the greatest teams, including the Jaguars last week, where they had to win in overtime. But they are getting wins nonetheless. I do give the win to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers team is just way more talented than the Vikings. Vikings defense is going to have a hard time matching up against the Buccaneers receivers. And I think that as long as the Bucs can hold down Dalvin Cook and force Kirk Cousins to throw the ball, then they're going to get a turnover-prone Kirk Cousins, and it could be a very quick, easy blowout game for the Buccaneers, which they would really need for their late-season push. Cardinals, Giants. Giants are riding a very good high right now, coming off of a good win against the Seahawks that nobody expected them to win. And the Cardinals, it's hard to predict what the Cardinals are going to do. They can go beat good teams and then lose to not very good-looking fashion to teams like the Patriots and the Rams. So I do think the Cardinals do win for the mere fact that the Cardinals team is a lot more talented. I do believe it could be a lot closer than some might expect, not because of the Giants' offense, but because of the defense the Giants are slowly putting together. They do have some quiet talents on there like Logan Ryan, James Bradbury, and Leonard Williams, who are showing out for them and being good playmakers. So that defense might very well keep the Giants in the game, but I think eventually Kyler Murray is just going to do his thing and carry the Cardinals to a victory. Packers, Lions. The Lions are trying to mess up their draft pick spot, apparently, as they went and got a win against the Bears last week. They're still trying to go for wins. Packers are trying to get the number 1 seed in the playoffs this year. They're battling the Saints and whoever comes out of the NFC West for that spot right now. I do give the Packers the win. The Packers have been a little inconsistent against the rush this year. Their defense isn't as good as it was last year, and the Lions, I think, might give them a little bit of trouble in that aspect. But Aaron Rodgers, the Lions defense hasn't played great this year. They're full of a lot of older veteran players that aren't necessarily starter worthy. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to pick them apart. He's going to get time in the pocket, find the open receiver, and move down the field very quickly. I don't think the Lions are going to be able to hold them off very well. Raiders, Colts, two of the most inconsistent yet competitive teams in the AFC this year. The Colts, they got close, lucky win against the Texans, where the Texans, again, fumbled themselves away. And the Raiders had a very, very unconvincing win against the Jets, where they won off of the stupidity of Greg Williams. I do give the Raiders the win. I think they're going to bounce back from that game. John Gruden probably slammed it into them for the fact that they almost lost to the Jets. The Colts, I think, they go back and forth between whether they play good or not, and I think that ultimately might kill their season for them and might keep them out of the playoffs. But the Raiders, I think, are going to make a late push for those playoffs. They have a fairly easy schedule to end the year between Colts, Chargers, and I think the Falcons are one of the teams. No, they already played the Falcons. My bad. There was one other team in there that should be a fairly easy win for them. So we'll see how they can close out the year and if they can go get a playoff spot. Jets, Seahawks. As you can see, I've had a hard time. I had a hard time finding graphics this week. Like, this thing is taken straight from Madden. But the Jets are playing the Seahawks. The Jets coming off of a devastating loss to the Raiders, where they were 5 seconds away from winning, and 5 seconds and a Greg Williams-less defensive-led unit away from winning. And the Seahawks had I don't want to say, it was pretty surprising, but they did not play very good. The Seahawks, to start the season, it was Russell Wilson was cooking. The Seahawks offense was doing great. Wilson looked like an MVP. DK Metcalf's going off. And then the defense didn't play very well. And now it's a little bit flip-flop. The defense is starting to pick up its consistency a little bit better, but then the offense couldn't help themselves out. They got beat by a Giants defense that hasn't been highly rated this year. So it'll depend on what Seahawks team we get this week on what the score will be. I do think the Seahawks take the win no matter what. Whether it's high scoring will depend on if it's the Seahawks offense is good and not the defense, or low scoring vice versa. But I do think the Seahawks take the win. This shouldn't be a problem for them. Falcons, Chargers. This is one of the most fun games of the season, for the mere fact that these are the two most choking teams of the entire league. These two teams choke the most out of any team in the league. Like, if you were to, when you think of someone choking, think of like Darth Vader, getting that force choke, like on Rebel Guy, and he's like sitting there going, ah! Like, that's the Falcons, Chargers. They choke at the last second, right when it matters. The Falcons, they get some very odd-looking good wins towards the end of seasons, and they did that not too long ago against the Raiders, but they do still have very bad losses nonetheless, and you could give a couple of those, including the Cowboys one. And then the Chargers, anytime they're close to a victory, they just seem to throw it away. It's not necessarily when they have the lead, it's when they're going for a push. They always seem to lose it. They don't necessarily get big leads, but when they do, they normally blow it. And then they just got absolutely killed last week by the Patriots, 45-0. And that's brutal to see after seeing what the Rams did to the Patriots on Thursday. Nonetheless, I do give the win to the Chargers. They're the younger, better team, I feel like. So as long as the Chargers have less of a choke, then the Chargers should be able to take a win with Justin Herbert carrying him to a victory. The Falcons' defense isn't the greatest, so it'll allow for Justin Herbert to make better decisions than he did against the Patriots. Washington against the 49ers, two teams that are playing better than I think people expected at this point in the season. 49ers, with the amount of injuries they dealt with, they've been pretty competitive this season, whereas Washington, nobody expected them to have as many wins as they do right now. I think Washington is playing great defensively, and they're being led by a great leader on offense in Alex Smith. And that is exactly why I give them the win. Washington coming off of beating the last undefeated team in football. I think the 49ers offense still isn't the greatest right now. They're a very rush-heavy offense right now because Nick Mullins isn't the greatest passer. And I think Washington's going to be able to take advantage of that. The secondary is going to buy time for the pass rush to get to him. Chase Young is going to get to Nick Mullins a couple times. And Washington, as long as Alex Smith does his thing as a game manager, then we'll see a pretty easy win for Washington. Eagles versus the Saints. Jalen Hurts is the starter this week. It is his first career start and marks the 5th rookie quarterback to start this week, I think, or this season. I think it's Joe Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Luton, Hurts. So Jalen Hurts is the 5th rookie quarterback to start this season, and that's not going to matter like anything because the Saints are going to go and blow out the Eagles. The Eagles team is absolutely atrocious on both sides of the ball. Maybe it'll be a little bit better offensively with Jalen Hurts in there. I do think he's not going to make the best decisions because he is a rookie. He might have a hard time reading Saints defense. I think as long as the Saints keep the turnovers low on their side of the ball, they're going to run away with this one pretty quickly. Control the ball, control the clock, and when the Eagles do get the ball, don't make any miscues, get your assignments. And because the Eagles' offense is going to have to be pretty basic, and basic isn't going to be able to beat a Sean Payton-led defense. Getting into Sunday Night Football, the Steelers versus the Bills. I think I'd have to give this game of the week, even with the Chargers-Falcons game. That's just more of a mean game. This is going to be a very fun game to watch. I do think the Steelers are still a little worse than their record shows, and I think the Bills are a little bit better, and that's why I give the Bills the win. When Josh Allen is on his game, this Bills team is very hard to beat. The defense isn't as good as it was last year, but that's okay because the Bills' offense, last year the Bills, they didn't do too well in some games because the defense had to make up for the inconsistency of Josh Allen and the offense, and this year they don't have to. They don't have to worry about that, and I think when Josh Allen's on his game, throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs, this team has a ton of secret weapons that they know how to use correctly. You can one-on-one Stephon Diggs all you want with a safety over the top, but then you're just going to leave Isaiah McKenzie, who's like their 4th-string receiver, 5th-string even, to just take an end around and go to the house. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, all play-making receivers who you have to keep an eye on. It's a very tough task to do, and when Josh Allen, if he's on target, accurate, and making the right decisions, it is going to be very tough, and I think it's going to be a very hard ask for the Steelers to be able to do. And our Monday Night Football game, last game of the week, because there's not too many COVID cases this week, so we didn't have to push a game. Whoop-de-doo, Browns at home against the Ravens. The Ravens ended their losing streak with a win over the Cowboys. The Browns are riding a hot streak. They're most likely into the playoffs this year. They have the most wins in a season since I think 2002 was what the record said. So that's a very long time from not having 9 wins at least. The Browns, it's their first winning season in almost a decade. It's for being a Browns supporter over the last couple seasons, it's very heartwarming to see that, trust the process. The process may take you through a whole lot of routes, but eventually your problems will get fixed. Now, I do think after this year, it'll be the Lions' turn to try and figure out their issues And I think the Lions are going to be the next Browns team where they're just going to be awful for a crazy long time. But anyways, this is Browns-Ravens. I do give the Browns the win. I think the Browns are the better team. I think as long as the Browns are disciplined in this game, they don't get aggressive against Lamar Jackson, contain him, keep him in the pocket, get Myles Garrett back there, and get him to pressure Lamar. And I think you have a recipe for success against the Ravens. The Ravens have been inconsistent in most of their games through the second half of the season, save for the Cowboys game last week. So if the Browns can try and revert the Ravens to their previous games before the Cowboys, then I think the Browns, it's going to be a fun game to watch. We'll put it at that. These teams can be inconsistent on offense, and they're both very defensive-led teams. Even with the issues that the Browns may have in like their back end, their pass rush is one of the best in the league. So I do give the Browns the win for the idea that I think they'll be able to contain Lamar, and the Ravens will have a tough time trying to beat him. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you aren't already. Would greatly appreciate it. It's free to do. Hope you all have a great football Sunday. And let's get ready to root for the Patriots in the following week when they play the Dolphins, as they've already played this week. But no matter, root for any secondary team you have. I'm rooting for the Saints because they're my team to win the Super Bowl. So I'm hoping they do well in Drew Brees' possibly final year. But anyways, have a good football Sunday, and I'll check you out in the next video.